Hello viewers, thank you for watching this Fortnite Creative tutorial on how to build a teleporter. As you can see here on this testing island, we got two portals here, and we got two mechanisms to turn the portals off and on. So this button here is going to enable the portals and switch them from red to blue. None of the settings here need to be changed, except for the very bottom one, when interacted with, transmit on channel 1. The trigger, which is going to disable the portals, could be a button, but we're going to do a trigger to show you something a little bit different that you could do for your build. Triggered by player, off, items, vehicles, and sequencers off, but triggered by damage needs to be on. Then we go down here. When triggered, transmit on channel 4. This makes this trigger a target in-game that when you shoot it, it's going to disable the portals if they've been previously activated. Now for the base plates themselves, which are barrier pieces. These give the portal the red effect when it's disabled. Both of these barrier pieces underneath each portal are identical in their settings. Barrier style is red force field. Enable during game phase all. Block weapon fire, set that to no. The dimensions need to cover up the physical area that you're going to be teleporting. So in this case, we're going to put the height at 2 because it's actually under the portal. Enable when receiving from channel 4 and disable when receiving from channel 1. Then for the blue barrier piece, blue force field, enable during game phase needs to be none, so it's not going to be there at the start of the game. The dimensions, like I said, need to cover the actual portal zone, so in this case, because this one's off to the side, the height is still going to be 1, but the depth is going to be 3. Enable when receiving from channel 1, disable when receiving from channel 4. That's opposite of the red barriers. And then again, each blue barrier is the same. This one is placed directly on the tile, so it doesn't need a longer depth. Now for the triggers and portals themselves. These settings are going to be mostly the same between the two portals, but there will be one difference for each. So we go into the trigger here. So far, none of the settings really need to be changed. Triggered by damage, items, vehicles, and sequencers, you're going to want that off. Activate on game phase needs to be set to none so that it doesn't spawn at the start of the game. Times can trigger infinite. Visible in game, no. Enable that game start, disabled. Enable when receiving from channel 1 and disable when receiving from channel 4. Up until now, all these settings are the same between each trigger. Then at the bottom, when triggered, transmit on channel 3. This one, like I said, is going to be the same settings until the bottom, when triggered, transmit on channel 2. The portal that you're going to place in front, the actual proper teleporting piece, this is the function. Place it in front of the trigger far enough so that when the player teleports to it, they're not going to trigger the opposite portal and go back through in like a loop. You don't want that. So make sure it's far enough out. Also make sure it's facing in the right direction with these particles facing forward. That'll keep the players always facing the front of the portal, not the back of it. Again, these settings are going to be identical up until the bottom, and I'll show you when they're going to change. So teleporter group none, target group none. Enable during game phase, you can leave that at all, otherwise it would disappear while you're in edit mode and that would be kind of obnoxious. Teleporter rift visible, make sure that's no. Face player in teleport direction, yes, unless you want to do something kind of weird and different and have like doorway portals. I would recommend just leaving this at yes. Teleport to when receiving from channel 3. That's the one that's going to be different between these two teleporter pieces. The other one's going to teleport when receiving from channel 2, but this one is receiving from channel 3. Enable when receiving from channel 1, and disable when receiving from channel 4. Now let's go over to this one just so you can check out the settings down here to see what I'm talking about. Teleport to when receiving from channel 2, enable and disable from channel 1 and 4 respectively, the same as the last one. So what this mechanism does, when a player triggers this trigger piece by walking into it, it's going to send them over here. And when they hit this trigger piece, it's going to send them over here. Alright, let's do it in-game and show you how it's actually going to look. So the portals as they are right now, they're red and they're not going to work. Then when you go down here and hit this button, it's going to flip-flop the colors from red to blue, and the portals are going to work now. So I go through here, it sends me here. I go back through, it sends me here. Now if I want to disable them, remember we set up this target piece as a target trigger. Turns them back to red, and they don't work. Push the button, turns them back to blue. That's it for this Fortnite Creative tutorial on how to do an advanced teleporter. These images here are what the portals can look like if you decorate them properly in game, and you can make them look really nice and fancy so they're not the same as just using the basic teleporter piece on your creative maps. Remember to like and subscribe to our channel so we can bring you more Fortnite Creative content in the future.